Hello and welcome to Not Your Grandma's Opera. It is February, so it is also Black History Month, and I really wanted to do a special on Black opera singers. I really wanted to highlight Black opera singers because, people who don't know about opera, they associate opera with people like Pavarotti or Maria Callas, and these are all white opera singers. They don't hear about Black opera singers and all the great contributions that they have given to the opera art form. So I definitely wanted to do, it's going to be a little bit of a longer video, but that's okay, to just kind of highlight all these really fabulous Black opera singers. Now, first, I want to start with the Queen herself. If she sings one of my arias, that is who I am looking for inspiration, for everything. The one, the only, Leontyne Price. She was born Mary Violet Leontyne Price on February 10th, 1927 in Laurel, Mississippi. She's a soprano, and she's the first African-American soprano to receive international acclaim. Also the first African-American to be a leading performer at the Met. Not the first African-American to perform at the Met. Let's just clear that up. She is not the first. That actually goes to Marion Anderson, who we will talk about later in this episode. But she is the first to be a leading performer. And her big inspiration was actually Marion Anderson. So she actually began studying music education at Central State University. And then after the dean heard her sing just at like a glee club, he managed to persuade her to change her major to voice. She then went to Juilliard. In 1952, she began her career singing Bess in Porgy and Bess at the Ziegfeld Theater. And then she went on tour in Europe with Porgy and Bess. In 1953, the Met recognized her as potential and invited her to sing Summertime at the Met Jamboree specifically, making her the first African-American to sing with and for the Met, not at. Again, not at. That is Marion Anderson. In 1955, she sang Tosca for the NBC Theater, Opera Theater, I should say. And it was the first African-American in a leading role on a televised opera. Her first performance at a major opera house was in 1957, and it was at San Francisco Opera as Madame Lidoni in the U.S. premiere of Dialogue at the Carmelites. Her European debut was in 1958 at Vienna State Opera as Aida. Going to be a very huge iconic role for her. And then she went on to do, in 1960, she debuted at Chicago Lyric as Liu in Turandot, and then again in 1960 at La Scala in Aida, as Aida, of course. She was the first African-American to sing a prima donna role at La Scala. In 1961, she finally premiered at the Met as Leonora in Il Trovatore. She received a standing ovation that lasted 35 minutes. That's how amazing this woman was. 35 minutes. In the late 60s, she began to pull away from the operatic stage and started doing more concerts and recitals. And then on January 3rd, 1985, she did her operatic farewell at the Met. And of course, she did Aida. She then had 25 minutes of applause. If you don't believe me, there are YouTube videos of this. And she's just standing there on stage crying her eyes out. It's just amazing. She is absolutely amazing. She's still alive. She's very old, but she is still alive today. So, yeah, that's the queen bee of opera in general, not just of Black opera singers, of opera, is Leontyne Price. Now, next, I want to talk about Jessie Norman. Jessie Norman's also a soprano. She was born September 15th, 1945, and she recently died on September 30th, 2019. So before the pandemic, fortunately. In 1967, she graduated from Howard University. She then began studies at the Peabody Conservatory in Baltimore, then the University of Michigan School of Music, Theater, and Dance, and earned her master's degree there. She then moved to Europe and in 1969 began her 3-year contract with the Deutsche Oper in Berlin. She debuted as Elizabeth in Tannhauser. So this is where we start with all that Wagner. She's the Wagner queen. In 1972, she premiered at La Scala as Aida in Aida, and then she had lots of concert tours. In 1982, she finally made her first U.S. operatic appearance at the Opera Company of Philadelphia as Jocasta in Stravinsky's Oedipus Rex, and as Dido in Dido and Aeneas. Her first Met was finally in 1983 as Cassandra and Didon in Les Troyens by Berlioz. After being a regular at the Met, she began recording song cycles, a lot by Black poets, including Maya Angelou. She sang at the 200th anniversary of the French Revolution, at Tchaikovsky's 150th birthday gala, at the funeral of Jackie O, at the 1996 Summer Olympics in Atlanta, and at the second inauguration of Bill Clinton. She was kind of our go-to for a while there. In 2003, she opened the Jesse Norman School of Arts, a tuition-free performing arts school after-school program for economically disadvantaged students in Augusta, Georgia. So she led a pretty full life. She is like the authority on, Wagner, basically. She's our Wagnerian. While she is mostly labeled a soprano, she is actually very famous for kind of just singing whatever she wanted and singing it well and being absolutely fabulous at it. Okay, now I do want to talk about Shirley Verrette. Shirley Verrette, our sopranos sfogato, or she started out as a mezzo and then transitioned into a soprano. Woman can sing, let's just put it that way. She was born May 31st, 1931, and she died November 5th, 2010. She was born in New Orleans, but raised in LA. She went to Juilliard, and in 1961, she won the Met Opera National Council auditions. In 1957, she debuted in Britain's The Rape of Lucretia. In 1958, New York City Opera debut as Irina in Kurt Weill's Lost in the Stars. She finally made her Met debut in 1968 with Carmen. Her La Scala debut was in 1969 in Samson and Delilah. In the late 70s, she actually began taking on soprano roles, including Tosca, Lady Macbeth, Norma, Aida, Desdemona. In 1994, she actually transitioned to Broadway and made her Broadway debut as Nettie Fowler in Carousel. And in 1996, she joined the faculty at the University of Michigan School of Dance and Theater. Now, next on our list is Eric Owens. Eric Owens is a current singer. He is still singing at the Met. He's absolutely fabulous. He is a bass baritone. He was born July 11th, 1970 in Philadelphia. He graduated in 93 from Temple University's Boyer College of Music and Dance and got his master's at the Curtis Institute. He joined Young Artist Program at Houston Grand Opera and debuted as Ramphis in Aida. His San Francisco Opera debut was as Lodovico in Othello, and Royal Opera Covent Garden was Orvieso in Norma. His LA Opera debut was Ferrando in Il Trovatore, and his Met Opera, General Leslie Groves in Dr. Atomic. He's absolutely fabulous. He does a lot of Wagner as well. I really, really love his voice. Next, we have Marion Anderson. Marion Anderson was a contralto. This woman definitely went through it and opened a lot of doors. She was born February 27th, 1897, and died on April 8th, 1993. She was born in Philadelphia. The People's Chorus of Philadelphia and the pastor of her church raised money to get her singing lessons and to attend South Philadelphia High School. She couldn't attend the Philadelphia Music Academy, though. She continued to sing and caught the attention of Giuseppe Boghetti. He scheduled a recital for her in the town hall in New York in 1924. It took place to, unfortunately, an almost empty hall, and she received poor reviews. In 1925, she won a competition sponsored by the New York Phil, and due to racial prejudice, it prevented her career from taking off. Which is very sad, and also stopped her from getting rave reviews from critics. In 1930, she went off on a tour in Europe and in 1935 made a second appearance at the Town Hall in New York City and began a U.S. tour. At this time, she was still denied access to a lot of hotels and restaurants. In 1939, Daughters of the American Revolution denied her permission to perform a concert at the Constitution Hall. Eleanor Roosevelt resigned Daughters of the American Revolution because of this. Due to this, President Roosevelt and NAACP arranged an open-air concert on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. This was a really, really big deal. Then during World War II, she entertained troops in hospitals and on army bases. In 1953, she headlined the Ford 50th anniversary show. And on January 7th, 1955, she was the first African American to sing with the Met as Ulrika in Un ballo in Maschera. Then she had quite a few tours and then eventually retired from singing in 1965. One thing I did when I was researching her that I noticed, she has not that many opera performances, even though she's considered an opera singer. And this was because she actually did not feel comfortable because she didn't think her acting skills were quite good. So she generally preferred to do concerts. Now, last but not least, we're talking about a tenor. Lawrence Brownlee, also a current opera singer, also fabulous. He was born on November 24th, 1972. He was born in Youngstown, Ohio. He attended Anderson University in Indiana and Indiana University Jacobs School of Music. He was a young artist at the Seattle Opera and Wolf Trap Opera Company. He debuted in 2002 as Almaviva in The Barber of Seville with the Virginia Opera. His Met debut came in 2007 with the exact same role. He is recognized for this role. If you are studying that role, you're gonna look him up. He is the one to look up. He is fabulous. That is his role. He debuted at La Scala with La Italiana in Algeri and La Cenerentola. In 2014, Juan Diego Flores, and Javier Camarena were called the three tenors said to represent a new golden age in high male voices with the singular thrill of their top notes. And in May 2010, performed with African-American soprano Denise Graves in the U.S. Supreme Court building for the Supreme Court justices. So these are all the Black opera singers that I chose to highlight. I probably will continue to do this and continue to pick fabulous opera singers every year because that is a problem. We do not talk enough about Black opera singers and their contributions to opera. And we should, because they're so good, so wonderful. They need to be known. So I definitely want to get this out there to my audience so that you guys can see that opera is more than Pavarotti and Callas. A lot more. And there are some really talented people of color that sing opera, and we all need to know that. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please hit like, share, and subscribe.